All right, so the question came in, can I just use 3 Dell Optiplexes instead of carving up a tower for virtual machines? And the answer is absolutely. You totally can do that. I do have on the screen right now the price for the real Optiplexes when you buy a new one instead of a refurbished one. And as you can see, it's not really a very good price. Right? I mean, this is literally the same thing. It's an i7, 7 i5, but even so, if you get the lower ones, the prices don't come down very much, right? Even with the i5, it's still $924. Compare that to $150 for the stuff I showed you on the refurbished lists for Amazon yesterday. So, I hear what you're saying when you say about the cost. I think the best way to do this is to get multiple. Fujitsu 530 has NAS, was only like $80, a dedicated K2000 GPU. Yeah, look, the point of this is you don't have to use the one that I said. The point is, number one, find refurbished hardware. Number two, consider multiple nodes, physical nodes, so that you can practice getting good with all the other things you need to do, like networking. Maybe spend that money you saved from getting that big tower for $1,700 or whatever. And instead of doing that, buy a nice switch that you can set a VLAN on. And I'm not going to let you decide about which switch you want. Thanks for all the hints that you guys are putting in the chat. The point is, having your own actual lab, like a lab like you would build out for a community college or something if you wanted to teach people how to set up a computer lab, which is what you're doing, is better. That's the main point of the video. And I'm also going to add that you definitely should know how to carve up a tower that's got into a lot of virtual machines. That can't be done unless you have a machine that's got a lot of RAM on it. So, but it doesn't have to be the thing you do first, right? You can, as I said in the video, you can save your money up and do that eventually in a much far longer time. You're not going to be, there are the implicit question in, can't I just do it on 3 $150 nodes, hardware nodes? Can I do the same thing as I would do on a tower? The answer is no, you can't. It's not the same thing. So not knowing how to allocate virtual memory, not knowing how to use libvirt and KVM and QEMU and all of these amazing commands from the command line, which you can do it to a limited extent on those other nodes, but they only have 16 gigabytes of RAM, right? So, I mean, you definitely can do that, right? You can take one of those nodes, one of those tiny $150 nodes, refurbished nodes, and you can split it up into a different virtual machine if you want, just like you could on the bigger tower to get good. You could definitely do that to practice, but the goal of having a tower that's got a lot of RAM and a number of cores, the goal of that is to truly understand how to slice it up and to reassign and to consider things like KVM. You might play around with Proxmox or XCG or any of these, different tools for slicing up these things. And that's really the point. The point is getting good with virtualization at the hardware level. And you can't get good with virtualization on the cheap unless you buy a tower. The tower is going to be way cheaper than buying. I mean, go price out what it costs to have 1 month of computer in the cloud that has anywhere near even the RAM and CPU cores of $150 refurbished piece of hardware. And then when you do the math, and then you consider what it would cost to buy, even the $1,200-$1,300 when you like amortize or whatever the word is to get that spread out over the course of the life that you're going to be using that thing, because you'll have it forever, right? Because that's the really great thing about Linux is you'll be able to run even on that refurbished hardware on that tower for a very, very long time. And it doesn't need to be super duper high performant because that's not the requirement, right? Your requirement is that you need a lab you can practice virtualization, setting it up and everything. And I promise you, if you were to try to get that amount of resources, you would buy back that computer in the cloud, if you were to get that in the cloud, within 2 months. So there might be some hesitance to actually eventually drop the money on a tower that has 50, 60 gigabytes of RAM or whatever, refurbished or otherwise, spend over $1,000 on that thing. But I still think it's a priority. I think you should do it. I think you should put it in your plan. Whether you're planning on being a web dev or an operations person. If you're going to be in security and operations, you kind of have to do that. That's not an option. That particular career path requires it. I strongly believe that. I've never met, I literally have never met an operations engineer, which includes DevOps and infrastructure engineering, who does not have a tower that they regularly allocate. There's occasionally you'll run into DevOps people that have only done stuff in the cloud. They're more cloud engineers, which is great. There's definitely a career path in that. But I don't see how you can call yourself an infrastructure engineer without knowing how to carve up VM on an actual tower. The switch can do pretty link integration is also pretty nice to learn. Absolutely. Yeah, we should talk. We'll have a different video about what network hardware should I get, and for that we should probably have a guest visitor, LTN Bob, who actually teaches network engineering or did for a long time at the university. Had Tanis as well. Has got a lot of more networking knowledge than I have, and we'll spec out what that piece is. A lot of this content, this video is kind of sitting in the middle of two different video sort of groupings. The one is how to get going, and the other one is home lab init. And this is something that I promised last year that I kind of backed off on the promise because there's a lot to talk about in the home lab init, how to set up your own home lab. And I still think we need that content, but that content is probably a year away. But this video is one of those that kind of fits in both places. In the meantime, until I actually have a home in which to put a home lab, which I don't right now. Right now I have an apartment that we're moving out of and I'm living out of my car. But eventually we will do a home lab series, and I donated my towers and everything, so I'll start building back towers, building out my home lab at home when that is, but that might be 3 or 4 years away. So for right now, check out Het Tanis, check out LTM Bob. Those are the people that I can actually talk about, and maybe avoid some of the YouTubers. There are some good YouTubers for home lab stuff, but the question is, can I just use 3 nodes versus a tower? No, you need to do the 3 node thing. Maybe you do that first, but eventually you do need to get the tower. So still save that money up. And I don't know, do whatever it takes to save it up. You'll get it.